Greetings to everybody. Now, is Islam an anti-Semitic religion? There are certain people who would have you believe that. But when we examine Islam, we find that it is far from an anti-Semitic religion. So let's start with the evidences, because we need the evidences that prove that Islam is not an anti-Semitic religion. Now, as we know, Isaac is the father of the Jews, the father of the Israelites. And yes, I know Abraham is also the father of the Jews. But you see, Abraham is the father of many nations. He's the father of the Arabs and so forth and so forth. Isaac is unique to the Israelites and the Jews. He's their unique father. He's basically the father of them. Now, if Islam was an anti-Semitic religion, then obviously you would think that the Quran attacks Isaac, right? I mean, the Prophet Muhammad himself is an Arab, and the Arabs descend from Ishmael, and Prophet Muhammad himself, if you read his family lineage, he traces himself back to Ishmael. So logically, if Islam was anti-Semitic, you would expect that this Arab prophet who comes from Ishmael would insult Isaac and say Ishmael is better. But this is what the Quran says about Isaac in chapter 37, verse 11. And we gave Abraham the good news of Isaac. He was a prophet, one of the righteous. So notice what the Quran says about Isaac, the father of the Jews. He's a prophet, he's good news, and he's one of the righteous. Notice the Quran doesn't say Isaac is bad news, he's a sinner, he's an evildoer, and he's one of the company of evil. The Quran says he's a good person, a prophet. And in Surah 37, verse 113, the Quran again praises Isaac. It says, we blessed Isaac. So notice, the Quran calls Isaac good news, a prophet, a righteous man, and a blessed man. In fact, throughout the Quran, you will never find Ishmael ever being called better than Isaac, being above Isaac. You will never find a Quranic verse that says Isaac is beneath Ishmael or inferior to Ishmael. Isn't that surprising? Here you have an Arab prophet speaking in an Arabic language, praising the father of the Israelites and the Jews. He doesn't go out of his way to say, no, Ishmael is better. He praises them equally. He says both of them are good. Ishmael, Isaac is also righteous, also a good man. You will never find Muslims looking down on Isaac. So this is one of the biggest proofs that Islam is not anti-Semitic, because you would expect that the Muslims, the Quran, would attack the very father of the Israelites. Yet throughout the Quran, whenever Isaac is mentioned, he's mentioned with positive attributes. He's always mentioned with compliments going after him. Every time you see Isaac in the Quran, there's something good about him. There's a good thing to say about him. Never a bad thing to say about him. Now, what about other Jewish figures? I mean, throughout the Quran praises so many Israelite figures, so many important Jewish figures like Moses, David. All of these men throughout the Quran are praised. You'll never find any major Israelite Jewish figure being attacked by the Quran. All of the people who are held dear to you, the Jews, are also held dear to us. We would never dare to insult them. And we get this from Islam itself. Logically, if we were anti-Semitic, you would find us saying, oh, no, these men are all bad. Only the Arabs are good. All of these men, David, Isaac, they're all rubbish men. You'll never hear us saying that. You'll never hear us saying that at all. Now, what about the Quran when it attacks the Jews? You know, you'll find many verses which condemn the Jews for killing the prophets and so forth. But now, context is always important. Just because the Quran attacks the Jews and mentions evil Jews does not mean it's generalizing on all Jews. You see, this is a mistake that people often make. They'll read a verse which condemns the Jews, and then they'll say, you see, all the Jews are bad. But that's not how it works. The Quran even itself makes sure that you can't generalize on the Jews. In Surah 3, verse 113, this is what the Quran says. Not all of them are the same. Of the people of the book, the Jews, are a portion that stand for good. So notice what the Quran is saying here. It's saying here that not all the Jews are bad. So therefore, in context, when the Quran attacks certain Jews, we know it's only attacking the evil sinners, not all the Jews, not generalizing. In fact, this is like the Jewish Bible. In the Jewish Bible, God condemns the Jews and the Israelites as well. But is He condemning all of them? Of course not. He's simply condemning the evil sinners, just like the Quran. And I repeat, here's the verse again. Go read it. Surah 3, verse 113. The Quran says, not all of them are the same. If the Quran was an anti-Semitic religion, you would expect the Quran to say, yes, all the Jews are bad. All of them, each one of them. But the Quran is saying, no, not all of them are alike. Do you think it's a coincidence that Allah, God, revealed this verse? Do you think He revealed this verse for fun? Of course not. There is wisdom behind it. The reason why God revealed this verse saying that not all the Jews are bad is to make sure that ignorant Muslims don't go around generalizing all Jews. So you see, this is the wisdom of God. Although He attacks specific Jews, He goes out of His way to say, but not all of them are the same, just to make sure ignorant Muslims don't go out and generalize against all the Jews. In fact, in Surah 37, verse 113, this is what the Quran says as well. We blessed him and Isaac, and now it talks about the descendants of Isaac, but of their descendants, the descendants of Isaac, are some that do good and some that do wrong. So notice what the Quran says. The Quran says that the descendants of Isaac, who are the Jews, there are some who do good and some who do bad. Here again, the Quran is saying that not all the Jews are bad. They're just like anybody. Some are good, some are bad. Just like the Muslims. Some are good, some are bad. So here we have two verses. Surah 3, verse 113, and Surah 37, verse 113. Both of them are saying, not all the Jews are bad. So therefore, to the Jewish audience who are listening to this, whenever you hear a Quranic verse that is condemning Jews for killing the prophets, know that this verse is only specifically aimed at the evil sinners, not all the Jews. And these two verses right here prove it. Surah 3 verse 113 and Surah 37 verse 113, because these two chapters, these two verses say that not all the Jews are bad. Therefore, I repeat, when the Quran attacks a specific group of Jews, it's only attacking the sinners. And even the Jews would agree with that, because the Jewish Bible does the same thing. And here is something interesting for the Jewish audience. Do you know when the Prophet Muhammad entered Medina, he made a contract, a treaty with the Jews. And this is what it said. To the Jew who follows us and helps us belong help and equality. Notice the Prophet Muhammad said to the Jews who are helping us, who are our allies, they are equal with us. The Prophet Muhammad even said the Jews of the Bani Auf were a major Jewish tribe in Medina. The Prophet said they are one community with the believers. So notice what the Prophet Muhammad said. He said that the Jews have equality with the Muslims, that they are one community with the Muslims. Ladies and gentlemen, put all of this together. Does this sound like an anti-Semitic religion? Of course not. The Quran does not call for Muslims to go out and kill all the Jews and whatever. So, to all the Jews, read these verses. I'm posting them at the side link of this video. Our religion is not anti-Semitic at all.